the average investor out there is so focused on the underlying investments, and they think that's what we do every single day. What do you say to that?
I don't pick stocks. That's what I say to that. And anybody who is working on your overall financial plan and also researching and doing their due diligence and understanding and doing the metrics that forecast stocks and do things like that, they're not doing you justice. I had a dream of having a different career, a different avocation. I thought I had my life somewhat planned out.
What was path A?
I wanted to be a pilot.
Of course you did.
Specifically a fighter pilot.
Okay. What was so interesting and intriguing to you growing up that you decided you want to ride bikes, motorcycles?
My dad made the mistake of telling me one day when I was 12, if you can afford one, you can have one, but we're not buying them for you and we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to fix it. This is all on you. Bought one when I was 12 years old. We
were at the Claim Jumper restaurant and we get this phone call. Rick is in the hospital.
And I'm riding again today.
And you get back right up on that horse. Somewhere along the lines, you met my father.
I thought we made a great pair. I could handle the office. I could handle all the questions. I could handle the planning. I could handle the day-to-day running of everything. And he could be the person he wanted to be.
What would you say are the top things that people should be aware of as they're approaching a so-called future retirement date?
Human behavior is one of the biggest detriments to an investment portfolio that there is. I think it's the biggest one.
I leave Deloitte and I come work in the family business. Were you like going, oh shit? So here you are. You're this wizard of finance, personal finance, retirement, and let's go way back, man. Like obviously there were tons of courses in school back then, right? That had a career path. Like if you wanted to be a chief financial planning officer someday, here's what you needed to do, right? It was just
right. It was all outlined. Yeah, that was, and of course I knew from day one exactly what I wanted to do. And so I just looked it up on my college curriculum and said, yeah, I'm just going to pick that course. No, it doesn't work that way. It never works that way. Life doesn't work that way.
Right. We all wish we had an instruction manual for life.
I had a dream of having a different career, a different avocation. That didn't work. And so I'm in college thinking, now what do I want to do? I thought I had my life somewhat planned out. I thought I was going to do it down, path A. That door was kind of slammed in my face.
Okay, well, hold on. Path A, what was path A?
I wanted to be a pilot.
Of course you did.
Specifically a fighter pilot. Okay. This is the late 70s.
So you are an adrenaline junkie.
I like speed and horsepower, or maybe okay, a little bit.
Okay, see.
I can't imagine a more incredible job than flying like a fighter jet. I marvel at those guys, and I just think it's incredible. I wanted to be one of those guys or good ladies, those people.
So in your mind, I know you're so old. This movie came out after you had grandkids, but when Top Gun came out,
it was after I'd already been shut the door on me.
But did you imagine yourself as more of a maverick or a goose?
Oh no, Goose was backseat. He was not pilot in command. No, I wanted front seat. I was offered backseat. I mean, I went through OCS, Officer Candidate School, and when they finally said no, we're not going to accept you as front seat pilot in command, they said, you still passed all the exams. You still you do everything. You can fly back seat. You can be in the plane, but you can't get the pilot license. You can't be the front guy. And that's what I wanted. And I didn't want to be back seat. I mean, not that there's a problem with that. It just wasn't what I wanted. I kind of went into a little funk after that and said, well, no, I don't want that.
So you switched gears.
I kind of muddled around for a while. I was in college at the time, a couple of years in college, and not exactly sure where I was going. But I had gone through in my senior year and gone through a demographics of the airlines. And I knew that the airlines, the average age of a pilot, I knew they were going to be retiring out at such and such time, which just happened to be about the time after I'd gotten my degree, spent my time in the military, got my hours. I could just, move right into a cushy job. I thought I had it set. And then it wasn't. It's life, right?
Right.
Life does that to you. So I'm figuring, well, I better at least get a college degree in something. And about the only thing I really looked at, I was good with numbers. I was good basically. And my uncle was an accountant, and he seemed to enjoy his life, his job. And I thought, well, that's numbers. That's, I can be an accountant. I thought that right up until I got into cost accounting.
No, I thought I could be an accountant too, Rick, but look where I'm
at. You are an accountant. You are.
I guess I am. I'm still a CPA, but
yeah, it was so. I thought when I got into cost accounting, no, this isn't for me. So I kind of switched over to economics, and as exacting as tedious as accounting was, economics was the exact opposite. There was no right answer. And in the middle, there was finance. And I kind of gravitated towards finance. And I took a course that the elective talked about teaching the basics of taxation, the basics of stocks and bonds, the basics of investing, the basics of risk management. I thought, well, that's a pretty good elective for a college student who hopefully will have a decent income and be okay, go out of school. They need to know the basics of what's going on. And then when I got into I took the course, and when I got into the course, I found out that it was the first overview of the certified financial planning curriculum, the financial planner training. And I thought, this is a career? This is good. This gives me the accounting that I like, the economics that I like, but not the tediousness so much. It gives me the financial aspect. And it's something I felt was really cool and really exciting to me. So
and helpful to a lot of people.
That was also important.
Needed, right?
I like that. I like being able to help people. At that time, though, it was more like, I like being able to help me.
Right. Of
Let's
course.
be serious.
How old were you at this time?
22.
Okay. Yeah. So
23.
You're trying to make a name for yourself, trying to figure out your life.
I'm trying to pay the bills, and I'm looking at what can I do that I enjoy that can pay the bills. And I thought it sounded like a great career. So I ended up getting my degrees in that financial planning area. And that was fun. I even went to the work board in my senior year and found a job in financial planning before I graduated. And so my whole career from college on basically has been financial planning. And as you mentioned earlier, older than dirt, that's been a long time.
Well, I'm just teasing on the older than dirt
I'm old.
thing. Well, only because you tease about it. When we have our company events and everything. I mean,
the old man with the gray hair.
Yeah, that's you. But that's the role. You fit it well.
But you got to have fun at doing it. Getting old is not the worst thing. Not getting old or being able to get old is worse, because that means you're not here anymore. But you might as well have fun in everything you're doing. And I try to do that, bring it into what I do outside of the office. I still enjoy riding motorcycles and things. But at work, you got to have fun. If I'm going to be at work, I might as well have fun here and doing it. If I've got to be here, why make it tedious and drudgery?
I know. How awesome is this? We're sitting in a bank vault, drinking your favorite adult beverage, along with me drinking my favorite adult beverage, talking on a show. So yeah, we like to work hard, play hard. That's what we say around here.
Oh, you just got to have fun at everything you do.
And so speaking of fun, let's tell a few stories, Rick. Right? So.
About what?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you have so many. I mean, you're such an interesting dude, right? Like I could see like on the surface, like people might look at you. Oh, he's a chief financial planning officer.
Studious,
but so studious and book smart, right?
The gray hair.
But you're an animal. Right? You're an animal. So but you're a desert rat. Right. River rat, desert rat. You're one of those rats, right? So what was so interesting and intriguing to you growing up that you decided you want to ride motorcycles?
I don't know what it was, but as a kid, we would go camping quite a bit. And we usually go to the Arizona area because my dad was enthralled with Arizona. And to get there, we had to cross the California desert. And we'd be driving across the desert. I'd be 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, just looking and all the people out there riding bikes, riding dune buggies and other things, and thinking, oh, I just want to do that. I don't know what triggered me to do that. I just have always wanted to do that. It just looked fun. It looked great. And my parents were dead set against it.
Of course they were.
They're like, motorcycle? Not happening. That is just ridiculous. And my dad made the mistake of telling me one day when I was 12, if you can afford one, you can have one, but we're not buying them for you, and we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to fix it. This is all on you. And
motivation right there.
Basically the gauntlet was thrown, and I bought one when I was 12 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I came home, and my dad, I'm washing it up, getting ready. He goes, "What is that?" I goes, "My motorcycle." Whose is it? And I go, "It's mine." And my mom flipped. She's like, I said, "Dad said if I could afford it, I could have it. So what's the issue here?"
So Dad didn't do his research and figured out how much a motorcycle cost.
And it was not a great one.
No, but it had 2 wheels and
it ran.
And it ran, right?
I had fun for a while, and then I couldn't afford to maintain it after a while. And then I didn't get another one until I was 20. But it's just a matter of, I always wanted one during that period of time. I just couldn't afford it, And I've had one mostly since then.
Yeah. So it's like this whole need for speed thing continued on. You wanted to fly planes, and you're riding motorcycles in the desert.
I wanted at one point, just playing around with ideas. My friends and I were a little crazy. We wanted to be stuntmen, and we learned how to do car tricks and things that, we learned how to handle cars.
Oh my gosh.
That was fun. We thought we could do stuntmen. That was great.
I can see how your mom was freaking out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, by that time, my mom wasn't with us, but yeah. But that shaped part of my life too. In that, I was on my own at a very early age. So money was a different game. When you don't have it and you have to pay rent, when you have to do things, you learn a different, maybe appreciation or a different view of money than maybe some other people. And I think I bring that into my financial planning aspect in talking to people and can relate to people in some areas that people who've never had to really worry about where they're going to get their next meal from, or the next, meal for the next week from. It's a little different world. And so, yeah, I've had good times and bad times, like anybody else, like different things.
Everybody, but yeah, it's interesting you bring those experiences to.
You have to. It's who we are
today.
It's who we are, and so but it has shaped my opinion of money as a commodity, maybe differently than other people.
So a number of years ago, I remember I'm having, I want to say it was like brunch with my family. We were at the Claim Jumper restaurant, and it's my mom and dad, and it's me and my wife and the kids, and I think my brother was there, and we get this phone call. Rick is in the hospital. He crashed
Oops.
his motorcycle.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
And I'm like, oh my God, what did he do? All right.
I screwed up is what I did.
No kidding. So what was that experience? So what happened? And
I would love to tell you that I know exactly what happened, but I don't remember it. I know what I was doing. I don't remember what happened or what caused me to go down. I just know I went down, and I wasn't racing. I wasn't going real fast. My son was with me. I put him through hell that day. He was right behind me. And when he got to me, he was following me, and somehow I don't know what happened. I don't remember any of it. When he got to me, I wasn't breathing and I wasn't conscious.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I came back pretty quick, but it was fairly evident fairly quickly that I was not going to ride out of there. I was having trouble.
So they life flight you out of there? Is that
I got life flighted out. That's expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got a free helicopter out of this thing, but it wasn't free. No, they send you an invoice for that, right?
Oh, a big one, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I spent 10 days in trauma. Broke quite a few bones, a couple other things, open surgery, the zipper club person now, and some other issues. A little bleeding here and there. Lost 3.5 liters. And so, yeah. And I'm riding again today.
And you get back right up on that horse.
That was in March. The end of March, and the next time I actually rode off-road was October. But then March out here, that's towards the end of the riding season for the desert, because the desert gets too hot after that. And so the beginning of next season, I was out riding again until, some other things happened.
You told me something interesting. That happened on March 31st. Like, what is special?
That's a problem day for me.
About March 31st. What's March 31st?
Well, people that ride motorcycles tell you that it's not if, it's when you're going to fall down and maybe hurt yourself. and I've had more than two, but I've had two bad oops. And they both happened on March 31st. Now they were 35 years apart, but they were March 31st. And so my takeaway from that is I'm never going riding on March 31st again.
But I know what we're doing every March 31st.
We're going to ribs. We're going to the local barbecue to have rib appreciation. I broke 12 ribs, so I might as well have rib appreciation day.
This is what I love about Rick. He is like, he turns a bad situation into something great.
Yeah, I mean, ribs are good.
And ribs are great, right? especially the place that we go to. Yeah. And if they'd sponsor the show, we'd mention their name, but we're not going to mention their name. No, just kidding. But yeah, so now every March 31st, we go out and we get some ribs and we celebrate. It's really a celebration of life at the end of the day, but you're not dead.
No, I'm not dead. And I appreciate the fact that I'm not.
And we do too.
And I like being able to go out and get ribs to celebrate that I still have all of my ribs in me.
Yeah, you have a really,
they're all now in the same pieces that they're supposed to be in.
You have a really fascinating sense of humor. Professor.
You know, it's like I said earlier, you have to have fun. If you're going to be working, you might as well have fun. When bad things are going to happen at times, you have to accept it. And what's the best way to deal with it? Humor is the best way to, get over it and get past it. At least
in this case, humor and food. I mean,
food, obviously.
All right. So I've called you a professor a couple times.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's pivot a little bit. So you're this guy who fell into the financial planning industry, kind of climbed your way through it. You love it, right? And somewhere along the lines, you met my father.
I did. It was I was working for another company and I was enjoying what I was doing, but it was kind of at a dead end where I was at. I couldn't progress further. And somebody introduced me to your dad. Your dad at the time was looking to expand his operations, which was going to take him out of the office more to do more of the things he really enjoyed doing, which was entertaining and presenting. But he needed somebody to be able to hold down the fort at the office. And I think, and I hope, I believe he thought so too, because he hired me. I thought we made a great pair. I could handle the office. I could handle all the questions. I could handle the planning. I could handle the day-to-day running of everything. Not the business side, but the financial planning side. And he could be the person he wanted to be, and he's great at it. And then, so we were doing a radio show, every weekend. We had an hour. He had an hour. And then I joined him with another.
And what year was this roughly?
1993.
93.
A few days ago.
I remember 93.
And so we had a weekend. He had a weekend show that I was part of for a couple of years. He wanted to take his show to a daily show.
Yeah. So he was
an hour or two a day.
So typically, you can get on for an hour on a Saturday or Sunday. Right.
Sunday
that was
night was where we were first.
Like that was like kind of like one level that an advertiser or a financial advisor could get out there and market their business. Right. And there's lots of them all over the country today.
It happens.
Kind of fall on that similar model. Right. They hop on a radio station. They either have sponsors or they pay out of pocket for that hour of time and they launch their show. Today it's podcasts like this. Right. But that model still exists. But to get on a weekly show, that's like a whole nother level.
That's
now
a big step up.
Now you're part of the content of the radio station.
Right. While we were doing the weekend show, I was the financial editor for that radio station. So every day I would come on 6 times a day, say, this is Rick Plum, financial editor for XYZ. Here's your business reports. The market's doing this. The tax, laws changing this. Just some business report 6 times a day.
6 times a day?
Yes. Starting very early in the morning. And last one was at 6 in the evening.
You just call in on your phone or how did you do that?
The first ones I would call in, but a lot of them some of them I would call in because we had the equipment at the office to be able to do that where it sounded good. Yeah. But like the first one and the last ones I would usually do from the TV or the radio station itself.
Okay. So you're driving to the radio station, then you're driving back to the office, then you're driving back to the station, then you're driving home.
Yeah. So a little bit of driving, but for a while it was fun. But partway through that stint, your dad was offered a daily show on a different different radio station. And his idea was to take the show that we had an attorney with us, Ray, and so just the group that we had, and move it straight over to the new station.
So in TV kind of language, it's kind of like jumping from ABC on the weekends to like CBS Daily.
Sure.
Something like that.
It's a different network. It's
Right.
a different,
And you were
it's
still
a competitor.
And you were still, there were competitor networks. So you were still, in that case,
I was still on like ABC
doing the weekend.
and my name was all over that, saying I'm so-and-so, the financial editor for this company.
Doing the financial editor. That was daily.
That was daily, every day.
But that's like a minute.
Monday through, it was
6 times a day.
Yeah, a minute, 6 times a day, Monday through Friday. I was doing business updates on XYZ
But
station.
your name's all over that station.
You know, to that extent that.
And now you're on a radio.
And they said,
show.
we don't mind you going over to this new, we don't understand what he's doing. We don't mind you being voice over there, but you cannot use your name because your name is on our station. You are our, financial editor.
We own you, Plum.
To some degree. So you can't use your name on that other show because that's a competitor of ours.
I understand. That's probably, it wasn't fair for them.
I understood it.
I get that.
Yes.
I get that. So,
And your dad understood it. And so
obviously there was a solution.
Well, yeah, but some solutions come to you on the fly. So
Of course.
I was asking him, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And he's like, don't worry, we got this. I don't know if he knew he had it, but the very first show that we did on the weekly show, he starts off talking about the show. Here's what we talk about. He's the host, such and such. We've got this attorney, such and such, and we've got the professor of finance here to teach you about finance, to answer your financial questions. And I'm thinking, the professor of finance, damn, I've lost my job already. I'm already out. Who's this professor guy?
You got swapped out.
I got swapped out.
With some dude wearing a bow tie and some circle glasses.
Yeah, but he was talking about me.
Of course he was.
And I was decent at answering financial questions. I mean, that's what I've done at that point for a number of years. It was great. And so the professor, he just called me the professor. The professor's here to answer your financial questions. So and then maybe 5-6 months later, I got tired of waking up at 4 a.m. to be able to do this. So I gave up the other gig, and now we can use my name because I'm not tied to this old other station anymore. But there's this mystique on it. Who is this guy? We have people calling it. How does this guy know this stuff?
So you're like the man behind the curtain. You're like the Wizard of Oz.
Pay no attention to his real name. Just listen to his answers because he's got the right answers. I was able to, answer questions. Your dad was wonderful at answering questions. I tended to be able to answer more minutia, off the wall.
I would say you would provide the technical answer.
Yeah, that's a good way.
He would be able to
big view articulate
it in a way that people understood.
He was very good at that,
right? Because his background, he was a school teacher. When I was growing up, he was a school teacher, right? So he had a way of taking complex topics. And then boil them down to where like normal people could understand. So
when he started calling me professor, at that point, I don't know. You'd have to ask him if he had the idea of Professor Plum, although we couldn't use Plum. I don't know if he had in his mind or he was just calling me professor, and it just happened that my name is Plum, and so he could then start calling me Professor Plum, which is obviously people hear that name and understand that name from a game that I have never played.
Yeah, Clue, like Professor Plum. He did it with the knife in the library.
The library with a lead pipe or whatever.
Lead pipe, a candlestick.
Yeah,
you never played Clue?
I never played the game.
Okay, so
obviously I've heard about the character my entire life.
But dude, seriously, you're a desert rat. I can envision you and your people, your family out in the desert. You got this tent, right? There's nothing to do. Obviously, cell phones haven't been invented yet, that's right? True. And there's a board game out there, and nobody brought Clue.
You've obviously never camped at the desert with my crew. There's no board games nearby.
I'm sure you guys are doing drinking games.
Back in the day, maybe a little bit. Some other people may have partaken in some of those activities.
Okay, so Professor Plum was born.
So I am not a professor in the right that I would be teaching at a school.
I know you don't want to discount all the professors and the hard work of them achieving that, but it was a marketing. It was a marketing name.
It stuck very well with me, and I enjoy it. I like the moniker.
So around the Lucia Capital Group office, though, obviously you're Professor Plum. But internally, there's this website called Wikipedia where people can search and find out all sorts of information about lots of different things.
Yeah.
So Mr. Professor Plum internally is known as Rickipedia.
Rickipedia. That's
So you're Rickipedia.
thanks to our lady buddy Catherine. I think she was the first one to call me that.
Yeah, Catherine. We love Catherine.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's the name.
She should be in marketing. Maybe that's
it's a name.
Rickipedia.
And I don't mind the name. I feel maybe not worthy of it, but it's
well, you are. I mean, you literally are a walking encyclopedia.
It's fun
for personal finance topics.
I like to know the answer. I've seen you get pissed off when you don't have the answer. I'll go find the answer.
And then you go find the answer, and then you'll always know the answer.
Yeah. And the fact that we did our daily radio show, at one point we were doing 5 hours a day of call-in radio, just taking questions from every walk of life across the United States. And we got a lot of questions. It wasn't just one area. There was a lot of everything from opening an IRA to, different gifting strategies of high value this and being able to take as big of a deduction, whether we're using the basis or the market value or this. So it's part of the game, but I was exposed to a lot of different areas that then forced me to learn a lot of different areas that a lot of people don't have to learn. Because of the wonderfulness of that radio show.
Well, I used to think, when you guys were doing radio, and it was up to at one point 5 hours a day.
That was about when you came in the office.
It was a little after that, and we'll get to that in a second. But it was the best education like a young financial advisor could get, because obviously what we did, what my dad did, is he required all the financial advisors to rotate and work the phones.
Right.
And it was like, oh, really? Because people are, you're literally, this is what was so special back then. The phones are ringing off the hook. It was like a telethon,
it made
right?
Radio so easy.
The content was there, right? You guys just had to take questions and know that your answers.
That was wonderful,
right? But as a financial advisor, you're taking down their questions. You can't obviously get to everybody, right? And so you got to follow up with them and get their answers. And obviously, it was a marketing opportunity to build relationships and hopefully earn new business. It was why we did that and how we built the company really over that decade or so. That at least when I was here. With my dad and you doing the show. That's how we did it. But on the other side, I never really thought about from your perspective, the actual guy, on the show with my father and Rob, the three of you guys. You had to know your stuff, right? So you're spending your off hours, not just doing your day job, but researching stuff that you were kind of like, I need to brush up on that a little bit.
I need to know it.
Which is what makes you the professor today. Right.
You've
probably had like the equivalent of like a half a dozen careers in your career so far as a certified financial planner practitioner, based on the experience, the unique path that you've taken with your career.
It's a very broad,
right?
Because a lot of financial planners focus in one area. They work with teachers, they work with doctors, they work with people from this walk of life or that walk of life. I was learning to talk and answer questions from every walk of life, and I loved it. I know it sounds weird, but it goes back to I just needed to know the answer. I need to know. I love being able to look at the picture that the person has created for themselves, good or bad, and then try to figure out the picture that they want to have. And how do we morph today's picture into tomorrow's reality, or hopeful reality.
And the confidence you get from actually
watching
knowing your stuff and then seeing it happen, and you being in the what do they call it in a fighter jet when you're in the front seat, not the back seat? You're the
pilot in command.
You're the pilot in command. When you're the pilot in command of that client's financial future. See, it's starting to make sense to me now. That's what the whiskey's doing.
I'm having control issues.
No, like that's how I'm connecting the dots. Like I get it now. So, because I was thinking, okay, well, my dad was like the pilot in command of the business, and you were kind of sitting back seat. But when you're working with clients,
the one-on-one was
like you're the pilot in command, and that's what's driving you.
Right. People will talk about the financial planner being the quarterback of the financial team. They're the ones working with the attorney, working with the CPA, the tax accountants and things to coordinate the picture with all these different disciplines working on behalf of the individual. But it's the planner's job to be the quarterback of all of that, the person in charge.
Person in charge. And then today you're the person in charge of dozens of financial advisors, helping them help their clients be their quarterback or their person in charge, right? I mean,
it's fun.
It's pretty awesome. See, we're breaking some new ground.
But it's been a long, it doesn't seem that long.
It's gone by quick.
But it's, I've been here for 31 years and that sounds like a big number when it comes to that. But it's been fun. We've had a lot of times when we were doing the radio show, we were doing 3 hours a day. And we were doing it across the nation. We had hundreds of, I don't know how many radio stations. A lot of that was because of you. When you came in, you put together a marketing plan, a working plan to take the daily show that we had in a single market and then a second daily show that we had in a secondary market. That's why we were doing 5 hours, and turn it into one show across the nation with multiple. I mean, I think we started with 50 or 60 stations, ended up with over 100 stations across the U.S.
We were crushing it.
But now we have followers all across the United States, and we have the ability,
followers and clients,
and we have the ability to speak to them directly. So we started doing seminars, retirement seminars, all across the United States. We were traveling, a couple days, 3, 4, 5 days a week, 35 to 40 weeks of the year. And it sounds, it at times it's like, oh my God, it's horrendous. But you were fun too. But
you guys were rock stars.
Well, your dad was, but it was.
Well, you were too.
But we had a lot of fun. I mean, we got along so well together, and we would just enjoy hanging out and eating, going to restaurants, finding new places. I mean, we'd find that, the top 10 steakhouses in the U.S. Okay, where should we have our seminar next? Well, this looks good. We can try that steakhouse.
You're looking at the magazine on the airplane. You're going flipping that inside cover. Okay, going, where are we going to go to dinner? So
sometimes we're looking at the diners, drive-ins, and dives list. Okay, where are we going to dinner now?
Good times.
It's great.
I could be setting myself up here, but I'm curious. So I'm the son. You've had this relationship with my dad for a number of years. I interned a little bit when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Right. So we knew each other and stuff like that. So
I was at your wedding,
but you were at my wedding, it was an awesome wedding.
It was.
We had a great time. Love my wife. So I leave Deloitte and I come work in the family business, and with my experience being where I'm at, in my career, I obviously have been a financial advisor, and I know a number of other business owners that have gone through similar transitions with, from one generation to the next. Were you like going, oh shit, the son's going to come in and upset the apple cart here? I mean, we got a good thing going, or what was going on through your head at that moment when my dad, he had to have made some sort of announcement or something, right? Like, what was that like from your perspective? I know it was like from mine.
Well, by the time the announcement was made, everybody knew what was happening. And to me, it was not a big deal because I never wanted to run the business. I enjoyed what I was doing. I didn't want to have to deal with, paying the bills. I didn't want to have to deal with whether we were growing the business or not growing the business, all the marketing and all that. I just wanted to do what I love to do, which was financial planning and helping people and doing all that. And so it didn't affect me directly, so to speak, because your dad was still in the business. He was still the marketing. I was still hanging out with him, and you had been part of the company. And it was, from the time, I know you went into accounting. I know you went to the accounting.
Yeah, we were vibing on that accounting level. You and I.
But you went off on that direction as working in the accounting field with Deloitte, and I knew that wasn't going to last. I knew at some point you were going to come back and you were going to run the business. There was it was just the way life is. It was a family business, and Senior had a family member downline, that he felt very strongly about being able to take over the business. And this is before you were even looking at the business. Maybe you guys had talked behind the scenes, but I don't know. Yeah. But I knew it was going to happen. And it wasn't affecting me because you weren't taking over anything that I thought I was the heir apparent to. I wasn't losing my spot. It wasn't affecting me. So it's like, whatever. I mean, Ray's is a couple years older than me. At some point, something's going to happen, anyway. So whatever, bring him on and let him grow with us while he's still here. And for many years, the two of you worked together, which was great.
Yeah, we loved it. So back to that announcement. He made this announcement. I heard rumors. It was like a big red carpet. There were trumpets playing when he made the announcement.
Maybe in your world.
Angels came out of Ray Jr. is coming.
Yeah. You have a vivid imagination.
It was nothing like that, folks. It was, hey, son, welcome to the firm. Here's your desk. It's at the end of my desk.
Yeah.
I got it from IKEA. It's about 36 inches, if that. And good luck.
Learn everything I'm doing and then make it better.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we did. I mean, I read this article. I think it was like Fast Company magazine or something like that. And it talked about the different generations of companies. I'm trying to remember what company they highlighted in there. It might have been Ford or something like that. But basically the takeaway was the founder grew the company and exceeded expectations. Yeah. Then the son came in, totally screwed it up. And then it was the grandson that then came in and then like resurrected the company again. And so I remember I was on a plane coming back from like San Jose because we opened up an office there, and I'm reading this thing and it hit me. I'm like, I'm not going to be that son that screws it up. I am not. Right. And so that's what was a driver for me.
Yeah.
And so we vibed. We were cool.
It's not like I agreed with
there were others, by the way, who weren't so cool.
No, and
there'll be other stories we could tell about those guys.
And it's not like I agreed with everything you did. But it wasn't my place.
And if you can tell by this show, everyone, like, he ain't afraid to tell you.
I mean, we've had discussions like, dude, I just want to make sure I have a job 10 years from now. I mean,
don't mess this up.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past. Mm-hmm. I mean, there wasn't.
Well, it's been a crazy road, right? I mean, it hasn't been a straight one. It's been
and there have been some
ups and downs.
Balls thrown.
Some I've created myself, some that were put upon us all. But here we are. You know, we're rocking and rolling. So here you are. You said you were doing all these seminars and traveling the country.
Back in the day, yeah.
Right? Like, what would you say is like kind of the craziest place that you have ever done a seminar?
Well, actually, the most different place was right here in our hometown. We were doing a training seminar in the bottom second deck of the USS Midway, which is an aircraft carrier. It's a retired aircraft carrier that's been made into a museum. It sits in San Diego Harbor. We were doing a seminar in the training center, which is at one of the very bottom levels. We were deep inside this hall, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
First off, I could go see the planes on top. I mean,
of course, but you're a junkie.
But it was just an interesting place to be. And I don't know how. You got to get used to walking around an aircraft carrier. You can get lost really quickly.
You can also bump your head pretty good too. I've done that.
Yeah,
and I'm not that tall.
It just happened to be the day. Now, many people won't know about this, but I don't remember what year it was. The power went out, not on the ship, not on the dock, not in state, entire Southern California.
Oh, I remember that day.
All of Orange County, south of the border, the Pacific Ocean, east to Arizona.
Yeah.
No power.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
people were like, didn't know what was happening.
Know what happened. And
you were on the Midway when that happened?
I wasn't on it. I was in it. You were at the very bottom of it.
You were in the bottom of the. No kidding.
It gets really dark, really quick in a ship like that with no lights. No, luckily they're set up with emergency lighting.
Of course, they got backup power, right?
But it's not as bright. It's a different level of light. And they were wonderful. They immediately sent people down and escorted us so we didn't get lost again in the bowels of the ship.
Yeah.
But that was probably the strangest place we've ever done a seminar. It was great. It was wonderful. We did the radio show back in the day from the flight line at the NAS Miramar, when it was NAS. Now it's a Marine Air Station, during an air show. And that was the most difficult place to do a radio show, because you got these high-powered jets on full afterburner blowing by you.
They're buzzing the tower.
Well, yeah, but just taking off right in front of you. And it's like, well, we can't talk over that. We don't have enough volume to be able to talk over that. So it's like, okay, we got to stop while they take off. But that was an interesting place.
Oh man, we can tell stories. We can tell stories for days here. Yeah. So let's switch gears. Let's do a little technical, like financial planning, retirement planning stuff, because the audience wants to know. I mean, we want to showcase some of this knowledge. We've been telling everybody. You've done, I don't know, who knows how many hundreds of seminars all over the country, tens of thousands of questions you've probably answered on the radio over these years, right? All this knowledge.
And definitely in person.
So yeah, not to mention all the clients, the people the real people that you've personally helped. And then the advisors that you've helped help others. I mean, right. You've really impacted a lot of lives, which is really special.
I hope so.
Yeah, no doubt. No freaking doubt. You have helped a lot of people. And so that's one thing when you're riding home on your iron horse. Is that a Bon Jovi? Isn't that a Bon Jovi song somewhere?
I don't know. Maybe I'd have to look that one up. Now you're going to make me look something up when we get off the air.
There's a song where he calls it an iron horse or something. Anyway,
the iron horse I ride.
Yeah, something like that.
Steel horse. He calls it steel horse.
Steel horse.
I think he's actually talking about his guitar at the time.
Steel horse is the guitar. I thought steel horse is the bike.
I know, but let's not get into that.
Either way, I mean, but no doubt you've helped a lot of people. So let's just say you're 5 years away from retirement, right? And you're just one of these guys. You're running a business. You're not really thinking about it. Or you did what you were told. You just piled a bunch of money into your retirement plan, right? But you're not real super educated on the nuances of retirement income. Like, what are the
if you're reading the national press, things, you're not going to be educated in it,
right? Well, but you know what? Quite honestly, most people, it's a secondary thought because they're living their lives, they're doing their thing, right? But it's very important because now they got to manage their money to last the rest of their life. So, what would you say are the top things that people should be aware of as they're approaching a so-called future retirement date?
Well, the top things you need to be aware of when you're coming closer to retirement is that the idea is that your strategy for creating wealth is different, it should be different than the strategy for distributing to yourself when you retire. So the distributions, your investment strategy is going to change. It has to change because accumulating wealth is about using time, using volatility, saving, doing the disciplines, all that, and letting it grow and basically keeping your hands off of it. And don't worry about the ups and downs of the market. When you start distributing money from your portfolio, you've got to worry about the ups and downs of the market. How do I protect myself about those bad days? We have those from time to time. Sometimes really bad days turn into really bad weeks, turn into really bad months.
Yeah, we were just in a meeting the other day. I mean, how many days of the calendar year are up versus down?
It's roughly 46% are down and 54% are up. And it depends on the exact time horizon.
So we tend to look at like calendar years, like when we're thinking about the market, like 5 out of 7 years typically tend to be positive, right? But when you're taking money out of a portfolio, it could be any day, right?
Right. And so you have to protect against the things that helped you creating the net worth are things that are going to screw you up taking money out of the portfolio. So the first thing is you have to understand that you need to change your strategy. You need to start looking at it in a different light. You have to the second thing you have to look at is, how do I control my emotions over what happens with the market? Because up till now, I haven't really worried about it. But when I'm starting to take money out of it, now I'm worried about, am I going to be able to continue my income? All the studies show that most people in retirement are worried about, will I have enough money to last? And if the market goes down 20, 30%, and your portfolio, even though it's a balanced portfolio, goes down 10, 15, the average balanced portfolio in 2008, 2009 went down 25%. If you're looking at your portfolio and you just went down 25% and you were taking money out of it, you're saying, I can't I can't handle this. And unfortunately, that emotion makes you do bad things to your portfolio.
Yeah, we like to say the wrong things at the wrong time for the wrong reason.
Human behavior is one of the biggest detriments to an investment portfolio that there is. I think it's the biggest one. I don't have any empirical evidence.
The academics call that what? Behavioral
finance.
Finance. BFI now. They're calling it BFI.
So you've got to understand that you have to change your strategy. You've got to be able to figure out a way to create some method to control your behavior. And you have to understand the expenses that you're going to deal with in retirement. And the biggest expense that you have to control is one that doesn't benefit you directly, and that's taxes. How are the taxes going to play into this? So we've got to deal with the volatility of the market. How do we protect against that? How do we protect against us? And then how do we protect against the government?
Right. So those are the three things.
That'll work. Yeah. Because if you can control or manage, I don't want to say control, but if you can manage those things, you have a much brighter future for retirement.
That's beautiful. I mean, wrap that up, put a bow around it. Love that, Rick. I mean, that's what I love about you is you're able to communicate in a way that the average people can understand, right? So making it more concrete, right? So my dad, going way back in the day, I'm sure there was some meeting in his office. He goes, I got it, Rick. We're going to call it buckets of money.
I don't know if it was that much of an epiphany.
Okay. Maybe it just kind of evolved over time.
But it evolved fairly quickly.
Okay.
I remember it was basically 1994. And we had a client that came in and he sold his business in the Bay Area. And he said, I don't want to have to worry about money. I don't want to have to think about it. I need a check for X from my portfolio of Y. And how do I make sure that when I turn on the radio in the morning, turn on the TV in the morning, I'm watching, the news and the market's going down, going up. I don't want that to affect me. I don't mind watching it. I don't want to have to think about it, that it affects me. And so we started creating the strategies. How do we make that a reality to that individual? And then obviously, how do we make that a reality to other individuals? And that's where we came up with the idea of changing the way the typical plan worked. A typical financial plan is, you've been accumulating money all this time. And then as you get closer to retirement, you become more conservative. You get a more balanced approach. You go from 80% stocks to 70, 60, 40, maybe a 50-50 stock bond mix when you retire. And then, based on the old, supposed 4% rule, as long as you stay with 4%, you have a 92%, whatever it is, chance of your money lasting 30 years, inflation adjusting. But that didn't take into consideration all the different sequences that could happen. Are you retiring at the right time for the market in the future, which you have no idea whether you're doing? How do we protect against the unknown that's going to be happening in the next 4 to 5, 6, 8 years? Because those first 5 to 10 years of your retirement, the returns that you achieve over those periods of time, the distributions that you're taking over that period of time, dictate how your portfolio is going to do over the next 20, 30 years. If you have a sequence that's positive, if your first 10 years are the 90s, or you're going to be fine pretty much because you've grown your portfolio so much. If your first 10 years are the early 2000s, you got problems. And we don't know when we're retiring which sequence we're going to go be into.
Yeah, they call it sequence of returns risk.
Sequence of returns risk. And so how do we avoid that negative sequence of returns? Well, we came up with don't rely on the market for that 10. And when we looked at it at the time, we were looking at in the early 90s, one of the worst time periods in history for the stock market and the balanced portfolio markets was the 72, 73 to 75, 76 downturn. And it took basically 13 years, a little under 13 years for the stock market return to equal what you could have gotten in T-bills. Now, T-bills at the time were earning a little more than they are earning now, but still, if I can't beat the risk-free rate of return, why even try? And so we figured, okay, we need at least 13, 14. We did a lot more research. Mm-hmm. We found that 15 years seemed in historical terms to be the sweet spot. If we could get 15 years, then we're not too worried about what the market does to us. Yes, with Murphy's Law, the day after you retire, the market's going to crash by 15, 20, 30%. That's the way life is. Murphy's Law will affect you. I actually deal with O'Neill's corollary to Murphy's Law in my world, but that's okay. Basically, if you know what Murphy's Law is, O'Neill's corollary said Murphy was an optimist. So if you...
Okay, sorry.
Planning is,
the bourbon's kicking in a little bit.
But financial planning is about risk management. Financial planning is about looking at not what is the best potential outcome, but what is the things that could screw up your outcome so that we can avoid that and even thrive during the worst, what we can conceivably see as the worst case scenario. So we're looking at what are the bad times, what can we do? So we came up with the 15-year time horizon saying, in historical terms, which is no guarantee of the future, but in historical terms, as long as we have 15 years, even if it crashes the day after we retire, we're going to be fine. And so we built a strategy about, we need to have enough safe money. I remember doing a seminar, I think we were in Houston, and the gentleman said, well, I need $40,000 a year and I've got $80,000 in cash. And I said, well, that's good. But what happens? The average downturn in the market is a year and a half. That bought you enough time to get to the bottom of the market. But now if you need to sell your assets to create more cash for the next year, you're selling near the bottom of the market. You never want to be in a position where you're selling in a negative position. You want to let whatever's volatile have enough time to recover. So 2 years is not enough cash, not enough safe money. So we built out bucket number one being 6-7 years. Bucket number two, which we can accept a little volatility, but a little illiquidity, but we want to make sure it's available 7 years from now to refill bucket number one. And then it gives our stock market what the buckets became to be known as. And thanks to your dad as a marketing genius, he came up with that term. It tells us what we're doing. We're putting money in safe bucket. We're identifying. I think the most important part of that whole bucket strategy is it identifies how much money you can actually put in the stock market. You can afford to take the risk on this portion of the money because you don't need it for 15 years.
The market risk.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think has anybody ever been able to tell you, yes, you can handle the risk?
The standard risk tolerance questionnaires,
they're bogus.
They don't work, right?
No,
so... And obviously, it changes from day to day how you're feeling emotionally about the stock market, right?
It changes day to day based on what the stock market is doing,
right?
Which is you cannot be setting yourself into a position where you are reacting to the stock market.
So what I love about this conversation right here is you can obviously see the passion that Rick has for helping people manage their behaviors, structure their investment portfolio to help them achieve their goals in a way that just makes sense, right? Like. You don't want to be selling stocks when they're down, right? Like, I mean, why would you sell low and buy high, right? When you should be buying low and selling high, right? Like some of the stuff is, they call it behavioral finance because really it's about managing behaviors.
And the secondary side of that is you have now identified a purpose for every dollar in your portfolio. This dollar, the purpose of this dollar is to provide me cash flow to pay my mortgage next month. The purpose for these dollars over here is to provide me money to go see my grandkids 15 years from now. Those things have different needs. They're different and they can be invested differently. The hardest thing I get is when people come in and say, what's the best investment? Well, what's the investment for what? What are you trying to achieve? What's your time horizon? What are you trying to... Well, I want to have a huge return with no risk and be tax-free. Okay, that doesn't exist. Let's be realistic. So let's find out what it is you're trying to accomplish with the money you have set aside. What are you trying to accomplish? And then we can get down to what are appropriate investments.
Right. Like, so,
And keep the IRS away, if possible.
By the way, I lost my voice there. I think the whiskey went down the wrong pipe.
Oh, you're not joking. That's good. Oh, maybe you are.
So, the whole every dollar in your portfolio has a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some wise man that came up with that one day. Can't remember who it was. Might have been me.
I didn't know that.
You didn't watch the...
my guess would have been him, but okay.
Well, I mean, junior,
he's
senior,
been doing it longer.
It's all good. So, all right. So let's wrap this thing up. Like, So obviously, like anyone out there who's thinking about, their own financial advisor or, like what do they do for them? If they think that they're managing stocks, like their value proposition is managing stocks, right? Like what do you have to say about that? Because I feel like when I'm out there, I'm at the golf club, or at a party, people are saying, hey, Junior, what do you think about XYZ company? Right. And I kind of have taken aback because it's really fascinating to me. Like the average investor out there is so focused on the underlying investments and they think that's what we do every single day. What do you say to that?
I don't pick stocks. That's what I say to that. My job is not to pick stocks because I don't have time to research the markets. And anybody who is working on your overall financial plan and also researching and doing their due diligence and understanding and doing the metrics that create the ability to forecast stocks and do a thing that either they have one or two clients only because they don't have enough time to do it, or they're not doing you justice. Because I'm on the phone, I'm in person talking to people, with the advisors, with the clients. I don't have time to evaluate hundreds of stocks that are out there to determine which ones to put in your portfolio and how they interact together. It's not just a matter of picking one stock. You have to have a few stocks. You got to have some diversification, right? But how do they act together? You don't want them. I mean, the whole idea of buying multiple stocks isn't so that they all go down at the same time. You want stocks that work in coordination with each other, so they may be protecting against each other. That's the job of an investment advisor, a certified financial analyst, somebody who basically you probably don't understand when they're talking to you because they speak a whole different financial language, and usually it's over most people's heads. I'm not belittling, but it's a different language. They spend their whole time analyzing, researching stocks, bonds, market conditions, economic conditions, forecasting, trying to look at all that. How can somebody who is spending enough time doing that understand the complexities of the tax code, understand Social Security, your pension strategies, and the picture that you're trying to paint for where you are today and where you want to be? That takes time in itself, and it takes away from the time that you spend picking stocks. So I don't know anybody that can do both of those at the same time. That's just too much work. It's just not, in my opinion, possible. So you hire a financial advisor. We talked about it earlier. You hire a financial planner to be your quarterback. You create your team, which will include financial investment advisors that work for you on behalf, but they're taking their direction from the quarterback and saying, okay, I need a portfolio for growth or for the value or for I need different portfolios. So you spend your time giving me the best portfolio you can give there, and I'll fit it into here because not all the money is going to be there. And we also need a T-bill ladder. We need a fixed income, portfolio. We need a balanced portfolio. We need all these different types of portfolios, and no one person can do all those different types of portfolios. And I can't do it, but I can see how they all work together, and I'll pick the managers and I'll pick the individuals to do that job for us. That's my job.
And that was a great explanation, Rick. And I know you want to say one more thing.
I do
about this because I know the best way to help people make $1 million by investing in stocks.
Sure, start with $2 million. And
that, folks, is the podcast with Rick, the Professor Plum, motorcycle enthusiast, chief financial planning officer, host of the Managing Your Financial Future podcast, and Coors Light connoisseur, our man, our myth, our legend, Rick, the Professor Plum. Thanks, Rick, for joining us today.
Oh, very welcome.
We'll do it again sometime, bro.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.